So,
So,
good
who are the
morning.
speakers that you're waiting for? Sorry,
Um,
Nathaniel.
we are live right now, and I'd like to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all our viewers, all our audience from all over the world. Welcome to another show, another LATOKEN VCTV show, where we get to deal with trending topics and issues that affect us all. And today's topic is definitely affects us all because we're going to be talking about transforming the food systems and land use. Today, we have a wonderful panelists from Asia and from different parts of the world. We expect more as the show goes on. My name is Nathaniel Amida, and I am based in Nigeria, and I represent Latoken in the Nigerian space. And our guests are going to introduce themselves as time goes. And I really like to welcome our audience, participating in the show, making the comments. Today, there's an opportunity, a unique opportunity to send in your questions, your comments live, and we get to respond to them live. And we get to give you your feedback. Also, there's an opportunity for businessmen, entrepreneurs, investors to be part of this show. And there's an opportunity for them to pitch their projects in front of this panel, get feedback real time, and get the kind of exposure, funding, or recognition that their project desires. So we welcome wherever you're coming from. If your idea is brilliant, if your idea stands out, and you feel you need international exposure, contact me or contact any of the Latoken team, and they will be able to put you through a pitching session live here on Latoken VCTV. So, first of all, I'd like to go through a background of today's topic. Like I said earlier, we're talking about transforming food systems and land use. Now, food systems are the sum of all the actors and interactions along the food value chain: input, harvesting, production, processing, transportation, and much more. Now, this the entire food system value chain has its own challenges vis-a-vis the challenges globally. Part of these issues: rising population, rising income and changing diets, falling water tables, climate control, melting water reserves. And in my research for the topic today, I actually found out that in Nigeria, 27% of the population go foodless for at least a day. And that's amazing to me. 24% of Indians, you know, actually go foodless, and 14% of Peruvians go foodless in a day. This is a worrying trend to the UN, FAO, and all that are concerned. And today we'll be discussing the challenges in this sector and what can be done to address this food security. So I'd like our panelists to introduce themselves. I'd like to start from Dr. Saurabh, who is calling in from India today. Please give us a brief intro about yourself, what you do, and a brief about your background. Okay. I think there's something wrong with the connection there. Dr. Sarah will be back with us. But Manish, would you go and just give us a brief about yourself, introduction, what you do, where you're from,
Sure,
brief
sure.
background? Yeah.
Yeah. So, my name is Manish Anand. I am based in Bangalore, India. Uh, Last 10 years or so, I've been invested in the entire investment ecosystem. I have worked across multiple domains: private equity, venture capital, and also lending, credit systems, alternate investments, so on and so forth. For the last 4 years, I am heading a company called Provenio Capital. Under this group, we have multiple lending arms, which are the NBFCs. We have multiple subsidiaries, which are recognized funds under the AIF in India. And we also do multiple, deals structured as equities, risk-adjusted equity. Uh, so, from a perspective of investments, we have a very, very wide horizon and very flexible in terms of the structuring. We invest anywhere between 1 million to 50 million in a deal. And I think that is more or less so. Agriculture, farm produce, food security is very dear to my heart. It's something very close to me because of the SDG goals. And we have, in fact, we have been working for the last 1 year in creating a very large scale farm output increase and the productivity improvement over entire state of Karnataka. And if we do get a chance, I have a small presentation that I can take you people through. The entire project is $13 billion. And we have committed, as Prevenue Capital Group, we have committed 3 billion out of our own money, proprietary money, to be deployed over the next 10 years to achieve these goals. I think I have taken a long time and given a longer than required intro, but over to Saurabh.
Thank you, Manish. Thanks a lot. Sorry, I guess I had tuned out with my Wi-Fi from the system. So I'm Dr. Saurabh Bhatia. I am based out of Pune, India. I work in the investment banking industry. So to say, I help the startups raise funding, and I also help them with curation. I represent our ventures here, and I'm a venture partner at our ventures. My interest for today's topic, I'm myself a certified hydroponics farmer, and I have a keen interest in hydroponics. So that's why the topic of food systems and land use today attracted me a lot. And I hope I'm able to share something meaningful today with you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, every gentleman. Thank you for that introduction, giving the audience an insight into what you do and what to expect from you today. Um, I hope the internet will give us a good show today. Regardless, we push on. So today, I'd like to raise my first question. Right, like I said, while researching, I found that in Europe, North America, and some parts of Asia, food waste from consumers is still considerably high. Now, in the current global trend, food insecurity, this is a major issue. And do you think enough is being done to tackle food security with this high rate of food waste in most of Europe and North America? Do you think enough is being done to tackle food waste? Manish, can we start with you?
I don't know about the rest of the world. I believe the farm to table is slightly more organized in Europe and the US. I am more aware of the Indian statistics. In India, we are still struggling. I would say that we have definitely improved since independence, 70 years back. But even today, the fresh farm produce, which is your wet produce, sees wastages from farm to table and post kitchen to a tune of 30 to 33%. Dry produce, which are your grains and millets and so on and so forth, lentils, they also see a wastage of 10 to 15%. That primarily is poor storage facilities wastage, related wastage, not so much as the farm to table sort of a wastage. This is where India stands. We have been making strides in the right direction. The problem is that anything that you need to do with the rural world, rural economy, it's very difficult to reach out because India being such a huge landmass, further divided into so many states, each state having its own government, each government having their own agenda. So, despite what the Indian government at the center believes they wish to do, how much of it actually gets executed and implemented is a big question. However, a lot of private parties, philanthropist parties, NGOs, they are doing their bit in helping out the smallhold farmers and getting produce efficiency up, food wastage down. Uh, I don't have the current statistics on that, but maybe I think our other panelists would be able to throw some light on that.
Okay, super. Dr. Saurabh, do you have any insights on what is being done, if enough is being done about the food security challenge, especially in emerging countries?
Yeah. So I don't really know if there would be a time when I will be able to say that enough is being done for food security. So food wastage is definitely there, but I want to address this question on two levels. One is what Manish has already mentioned in detail, that once food is produced, how is it handled, how are the logistics, how is the storage, all these things create food wastage. But I also want to say that even before the food is grown, the lack of modernization and lack of mechanization of farming and is also actually leading to less amount of food being produced. I also consider that a wastage. If in 100 square feet I can do some kind of farming which can produce X amount of tonnage of food produce, and I'm not doing that, instead what I'm resorting to is either a traditional farming or low technology farming, which is producing food but not what it can possibly produce, and that is also a food wastage. So if we are having statistics like 24% people having to go without food at least one day in a year, as you said in Nigeria, and I don't really know these statistics accurately about India, but yes, there are quite a lot of people below the poverty line. So in that situation, it's not merely the wastage post-production. I would say even pre-production wastage needs to be challenged and cut down, and we are actually capable of producing much more food than what we are producing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dr. Saurabh. Yeah. In addition, I found out that most of this wastage or most of these inefficiencies occurred in rural areas of developing countries, so-called emerging countries. And you said maybe a lack of modernization, a lack of mechanization is the major cause of this inefficiency, this wastage. And obviously somebody has to be held responsible for this lack of policy implementation or lack of modernization. In this instance, who would you hold responsible for the lack of modernization? The government, the entrepreneurs, or the consumers? I don't know if that's possible, but who do you feel should be held responsible for modernizing their process? I mean, Manish, what's your thought? If Manish is frozen in time, Dr. Saurabh, what's your thoughts?
Sure. I would say I can talk about India in more detail. So I would say I live in a democratic country, and it's government of the people, by the people, for the people. That's a cliche. So if there's a lack of modernization, it's our own fault. I will not say that government is not doing anything, because government was chosen by us. Uh, but now when it comes to actual execution on ground, this is a PhD topic. A whole thesis can be written about this. But let's say all the things are intricately linked. Like, for example, if there are no good roads that kind of puts a dampener in the modernization. If there is no railhead, the transportation of the produced goods, availability of water and electricity both. I mean, in a tropical country like India, sunlight wherever we can. So uh, government is doing a lot, but what I'm not sure of is the education level and the understanding at the level of at the rural level to actually even utilize that much fully, which government can possibly offer. So if you see, this is like a problem which has so many different tentacles. There is education has to be proper for the farmers and for the children who are planning to become farmers. I mean, in India, I have not seen many people who say that, okay, when I grow up, I want to become a farmer. It's mostly either by force or because they didn't get enough education and they had no other option, and it's a family business, so they ended up in farming. Except for one or two states where it's a big business, every other farmer is there by tradition. So their education lags behind good roads, infrastructure, good railhead, and availability of good logistics. All these things are not up to the mark. And this is, of course, because we have a huge landmass and a huge amount of huge number of people in the country. But as these things improve, the production as well as the transportation of food in time improves. So I will say it's up to us. We choose the government. Government has to do things for the upliftment. At the same time, a huge amount of population kind of slows down the progress also. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sarab. I mean, great insight there, but I felt you were trying to be diplomatic because, in as much as the government is there to provide these infrastructures, yet the people are there to ensure the government does the right thing, but the government ought to provide all these amenities to make decision making for entrepreneurs and businessmen much easier. So, in a way, you are right. You know, it's a two-way thing. The people have to demand something, and the government has to implement some of this infrastructure just to make it easier for mechanization and modernization. Mr. Manish, what's your thoughts? Do you think that government is responsible for assisting in this regard, or is the entrepreneur's duty?
See, Saurabh is right. At the end of the day, we are responsible for the governments that we've chosen. However, I think the government's endeavor has always been to deliver on ground better infrastructure, higher mechanism, higher modernization, better roads, electricity, so on, so on. So the problem, I think, is two, threefold, right? As Saurabh also pointed out, it's difficult to educate the rural populace. It is also very difficult to make them change. They come up with this, argument that we've been doing the same thing in the same manner for the last 7 generations. And I don't wish to change, right? Whether it is, getting into organic food, whether it is getting into organic pesticides, whether it is getting into, different type of seeds, whether it is fast cycle crops, whether it is some way of, rainwater harvesting, anything wherever they are, they need to change the way they work. There is definitely a very high friction to change. So that is one part. As I briefly touched upon in my last conversation, what the central government believes is not the same as what the state government wants to implement and execute. So the problem lies in the priorities between the central government and the state government. Sadly, in India, we have multiple states with multiple, thought perspectives. I'm not saying that this one is wrong or this one is right. I'm just saying they view the same problem differently, and therefore they will view the solutions differently. And they prioritize their work agenda differently. So the effect on ground is different in different areas. Net, obviously there is food. I would not say India is in food shortage category. I'm only saying that there is much more our lands can yield. I have some data with me, which unless and until you have preset questions and you have preset agenda of discussion, I have done lots and lots of research along with my very, very talented and knowledgeable people from the agricultural world. We have put together a 10-program formula to bring about massive change in the entire food ecosystem, produce ecosystem, and also helping the farmers along the way. So if you understand, until you have such preset agenda, maybe I would like to take 10 minutes on that presentation. And that will actually cover a lot of issues. One issue primarily is water. That we are covering in 3 different forms. Then you have problem of logistics, infrastructure. Then you have problem of seeds, fertilizer, pesticides. Then you have storage, wastage. So everything is covered. And the fact that less than 1/4 of the total land in India is under irrigation, that is, a challenge. So there is a very high dependency on monsoon, which at times sometimes comes late, a problem, sometimes comes too much, then a problem, sometimes too little, and then it's a problem. So how do we keep, reducing our dependency on monsoon or the rainfall and become ourselves, water reliant? How do we reach self-sustenance in our need of water? It's also addressed in what we are doing. So back to you.
Thank you very much, Manish. And you probably broached some topics I was going to come to you. I mean, obviously, we know the food industry at the IRE is the biggest industry in the world as it is. 7 billion, 8 billion people have to be fed daily. Yet there is a resistance to change or optimize processes or systems. Now, the current food system, the current food system has its challenges. It has its drawbacks, and I'd like to know from you, what is it about the current food system? Maybe you might not take up to 10 minutes, but Manish, what's it about the current food system that you would like to see changed or adjusted to probably optimize results and optimize food and reduce food security?
So is this, would you like me to answer this with my presentation, or you just like to answer it just like that? How do you want to answer?
Okay, maybe you should just answer it just like that, and we'll try and wrap it up and see if we can give you 5 minutes towards the end of the show to just make it.
So I think Saurabh would also agree with me that there is no single-minded approach because the problem is not one. There are multifaceted problems, and therefore you need to have a multifaceted solution. Some solutions need to be implemented at absolute ground level. Some solutions need to come also, since he's from Maharashtra, we've had a very, very high number of farmers who have come in distress because of their loans going bad. The season has been bad. They have taken huge loans for their seeds, for the fertilizers, for the pesticides. So that is one problem. Education and training information is another problem. I think less than 10%. I am not sure what is the figure. Saurabh may know better. Would be aware of method of farming called hydroponics, right? About 5 to 7% of the entire land in India is what we call kharab land. It's absolutely arid. On arid land, there is so much we can still do in terms of floriculture, in terms of various other, using soil nutrients and so on and so forth. But nothing is being done. So it's a multifold problem with multifold solutions. So logistics is a problem. The quality of cold storages is a problem. A lot of food goes bad despite being in cold storages because it is on conventional power, and conventional power is subject to power cuts, and so on and so forth. The list is endless, right? We have what we call as a mandi system in India. So there are people who buy in wholesale and then sell to smaller wholesalers who then sell to retailers. Even though there is a lot of costing issue, which India is trying to solve with the new farm laws, but that is yet to be seen how that turns out. But even then, a lot of wastage happens on these steps because it means that much of time taken at each step of this distribution channel. And the last bit of wastage comes from kitchens. A lot of food, unused food gets wasted, as well as cooked food wastage. So from a wastage perspective, there is still so much of work to be done in terms of improvement of produce, as well as improvement in consumption. I think it's a very, very, as Saurabh said, it is a PhD doctorate thesis can be done on the solutions that need to be implemented to improve productivity and to reduce wastage. Over to you, Nathaniel.
Thank you very much, Manish. Wonderful insight. I'm going to switch to Dr. Saurabh now. And as I switch to you, you said something about hydroponics or something like that. Can you just explain to the audience what is this, or is it a technology, and what is it about, and what are the good sides about this feature?
Okay, so thanks to the internet, I missed some part of it, but I'm assuming you are asking me to answer. See, when I say the word food, it actually means different things to different people. And one of the easiest way to divide the society would be by their affluence. And the food that the affluent people eat, the food that the middle class eat, and the food that the poor economic, poor socioeconomic section of the society they eat is very, very different. And different food and all these things that we're talking about, whether they are growing technology or their transportation, storage, and making them available at a reasonable cost to people, all of these things vary with each of these types of foods. So a lot of research has been done that it is actually the affluent who tend to do more exercise, use more gymnasium memberships, and eat more organic and more healthy food. So that food also comes a little more expensive and is high in protein consumption, while the middle class tends to balance it out with carbohydrate based and some part of protein balance, while the poor, socioeconomically poor section tends to eat more of refined and processed foods because they are cheaper and also the most unhealthy. So all these things also affect what the farmer community is going to do. So, for example, since we belong to India, both the panelists, so I'm still talking about India, there's a huge population which is not doing extremely well in terms of economics or earning very well. So for that kind of population, it becomes imperative that food is made available at a cheaper rate. And those kind of food, which includes basic grains and basic vegetables, it has to be grown in a higher volume and at a cheaper price, transported as well as made available at a cheaper price. So now, since you mentioned hydroponics, and I also had said earlier that I'm a certified farmer in hydroponics. Hydroponics actually is one of the methods in which we try to not use the land but use the water. Two great examples are that of Singapore and UAE, United Arab Emirates. So Singapore is a place where the land mass is small, while UAE is the place where the arable land and the water availability of the kind of water which can be used for irrigation is less. Both these countries have admirably used hydroponics, which is basically farming only in water, to a point where they are actually producing fabulous amount as well as the fabulous quality of food. Now the difference is that in UAE, it is because of obvious lack of land and arable land, while in Singapore it was because of population pressure on a small piece of land. Now, what also needs to be seen in this whole thing is that the high quality of food is actually being made available to the population in both the places using hydroponics. There were some naysayers who were talking about that when we use hydroponics, we are using only water. So it's actually the chemicals going into the plants and water is being wasted. But in reality, when we grow in water, it's a closed loop system. So we actually use 1/10 of water that is used in land farming, and the chemicals are actually highly purified nutritional elements which the plants need. So the growth rate as well as the size of the plants which is the endpoint when we do the harvest is much better. So what I'm trying to say here is that there are different technologies which need to be applied at different levels of food production targeted at different populations. And in India, at least, I'm aware that the government is doing a huge bit for this. For example, if you want to set up a poly farm in India or a hydroponic farm, the government is providing subsidy up to the tune of almost 100,000, more than 100,000 US dollars. And if you want to set up similarly, a cold storage, for that also the government is providing a huge subsidy. I'm not sure of the exact amount. I think it's to the tune of $120,000. So that amount of grant is simply given cash to the person who is doing it, either to the farmer or to the builder of the cold storage. So government is actually, I mean, this is almost like a desperate attempt from the government side to say, okay, we can give you cash if you just do the needful. Otherwise, governments usually encourage or give tax benefits or give a little bit of free electricity or free water. These kind of little perks are given to these kind of businesses. Here in India, government is actually handing out cash to people to say, please build a farm, please build a poly house farm, please build a cold storage, which makes the food storage viable, and we are going to hand out cash to you. So I think a lot of stuff is being done, but once again, the only thing pulling us down is one, lack of adequate education, and two, huge population pressure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saurabh. Very great insights there. I'm sure our audience will learn a lot from this. And this is also another call to our audience, wherever you are. If you have questions, if you have comments to make, post them in the comment section of whatever social media you are watching on. Right now, we're streaming live on YouTube. We're streaming live on LinkedIn and Facebook. We're also streaming live on Twitter. And if you are watching on any of these platforms, I suggest you just make a comment, or if you find the topic very interesting, share it with your community. And then after this show, you can go back and watch this show all over again, gain some insights. And for our projects, startups, businessmen, entrepreneurs, you like this show, you are in the food security or in the food production space, you can come and pitch your projects to this panel and get the kind of feedback you want, get exposure. And join us on this platform, and expand your reach. So I was going to say something before this, before I took a break. Now there is a rapid expansion and urbanization of cities. Fertile and arable land is reducing as the time goes, and there is an influx of people from rural to urban cities. Big question now is, what land use policy do you want to see put in effect? Knowing fully well that there seems to be much more bias, much more interest in expanding cities, real estate, construction, and all that. What land use policy do you want to see in effect, especially in developing and emerging countries? Manish.
So I recently read a very interesting article in which there is, an experiment being done in a very high-end colony. I think it's in Denmark or Norway. I'm not too sure. Where the locality members have taken upon themselves to convert every open yard and open park into kitchen gardens. Those kitchen gardens have herbs, they have fruit, they have various, other vegetables and so on and so forth. And it is absolutely open. Anybody in the locality can just walk in, pluck tomatoes, cucumbers, so on and so forth, and take it home. And it is really got the whole locality, excited. So it's not that we don't have enough land. We do have. It's not well segregated. It's not earmarked. I think Saurabh would agree with me that we have enough, lung spaces in Pune. I'm very familiar with Pune. I've stayed there for some time. Bangalore obviously also has a lot of green land, green coverage. But how much of it is being used to aid in food security? Not much. I wish it was more, but not much. Not much of effort is being done in that direction. However, very few incidents come to light of people who have adopted vertical farming, rooftop farming, kitchen gardens on the rooftop, in their balconies, in their small backyards, and so on and so forth. Again, it's not something which has become mainstream yet. It is still something which is more from an interest or, they're passionate about, they have a green thumb, they're passionate about it, they're doing it. But from a government administration sort of a policy or a passion which is developed among the citizens by some government-led propaganda, that is not happening. I wish it was. It will reduce the the burden of that we have on the rural produce because it really needs to travel a lot, get stored, go to the mandis, then the distributors, the wholesalers, and the retailer, and then it reaches us. Fresh food is always obviously much better and can relieve some stress. And also the fact of hydroponics, it's also an area of my interest and study. Hydroponics can really reduce the cost drastically of food being made available, healthier food than soil food. But not much adaptation is happening. Not many people have really taken to adopting these new things. Plus, even the government has not really done much to earmark the land policies for this. Unless until I'm wrong and Saurabh is more up to date. Over to you, Saurabh.
Yes.
I think we have lost Saurabh, or I got lost somewhere. Not sure.
I don't know if you guys can still see me.
Internet seems to be challenging all of us today.
Yeah. So Nathan, should I go ahead? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I actually want to get your feedback on what land use policy do you want to see in
Yeah.
effect? Is it from the government or from the individuals or entrepreneurs?
So I'm going to say horses for courses
Yeah.
kind of policy is something which needs to be in. I'll give you a very classic example. I have spent a lot of time in northeastern parts of India, and in a state called Mizoram, there's a particular pattern of agriculture which used to be followed, which is called Jhoom, not Zoom, but Jhoom. So in in Jhoom kind of farming, what they used to do was they used to like every year around the time of when the seed sowing process has to start, they used to burn one side of the hill, and all the trees and whatever bushel was there, they used to burn it, and then they used to sow the seeds and do the farming over there for like one season, and then harvest whatever comes out, and then move to the next hill. So next year they will burn the next hill. So like 40, 50 years ago, the rotation of the hills for each tribe was such that every hill was burnt only once in 10 years. So it used to get adequate time to replenish itself, come back, have again reforestation kind of thing used to happen. And 10 years later, those guys used to come back to the same hill. Now, with population pressure, what happened was that slowly this 10-year period started reducing. And to the extent that it came that it became a 2.5 year cycle for each hillock to be burned down and to be utilized for farming. Now, this is actually damaging the entire ecosystem there. This is devastating for the hills. There are a lot more landslides because formation. So all this is happening because of the population pressure. The society initially the society had the right idea in mind when they were recirculating each hill once in 10 years. But because of population pressure, it kind of succumbed to this. So what I would say is that the land policy has to be appropriate for each state. Now, Manish had mentioned Maharashtra. Maharashtra is known as primarily an agrarian state. But at the same time, because of having come out of a Deccan plateau, it also has a lot of rocky soil. So not every part of land of Maharashtra is fertile. So this is actually a classical case where vertical farming needs to be promoted so that although that part of land which is just not able to produce anything and not arable in a traditional sense of tilling the land, that is the land which needs to be propagated for vertical farming. And then, but this is here the government's role comes, that those lands which have already been identified for last 70 to 80 years, what needs to be done is for them to become accessible by roads. Otherwise, it's very difficult to do a modern farming on a piece of land where I cannot even drive my equipment up to that point. So that is where the role of the government in building infrastructure comes in. So yeah, that's my take on the land policies. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saurabh. If I got you right, so the government is responsible for advancing much more contemporary means of land use and encouraging the farmers and the users to adopt this usage. Now, the vertical farming, for the sake of audience that do not know, just a brief explanation of what this vertical farming means.
Okay, so typically in vertical farming, we use good quality plastic pipes stacked over one another. And so it's like a wall of plastic pipes, and but they are at a slight angle so that they also get light, either artificial or natural. And the plants are planted in those pipes in non-soil thing. Typically, we use cocoa peat, which is a mixture of coconut fiber and some coal. So we use that, and the plant can take roots in that. The nutrition to plant comes from constantly running water, which has been enriched with the nutritional elements which the plants need. So typically, the the nutritional elements plus the light is made available to them. But what happens, because we are using it in a vertical sense, that pipes are stacked over each other over a distance of 1 foot gap between each other. There is a lot more produce that can be produced per square footage of land. So I can actually produce 6 to 10 times compared to traditional land usage in a vertical farm. So in 100 square foot of vertical farm, I can produce what will typically be produced in 600 to 1000 square foot of land.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
does that help?
Yeah. I mean, it really does help.
Thank
It
you.
really does help for the audience, especially to understand what this technology or this evolution is, and see how they can learn more, absorb this. Because, like you said earlier, there's a responsibility on all sides: the government to educate and empower and enable the farmers, and then on the entrepreneurs and businessmen and the startups to understand what this technology means and build effective, build innovations around this, and go ahead. And thank you very much, Dr. Saurabh. Wonderful insights. I know that this topic is not going to be exhausted in 50 minutes or 60 minutes, and we are fast approaching the end of this show. There are so many questions I wanted to ask. Honestly, I have not even scratched the surface, but I mean, I think there are bits and pieces here and there that our audience can take and research further on and understand better to have much more informed, make much more informed decisions. Well, as we round up, I want to go into one last question. And this, if Gary was here, he'll probably be able to give a lot of insight. But I suggest you already have broached the topic already. Now, going forward, to have a much more effective land food system, definitely technologies have to be implemented at one stage or the other. And I researched that a lot can be done when it comes to data capturing, the IoT, AI, and all that sort. So I want to ask you, before we round up here, what technologies do you see that can be implemented in the food system that will improve the results and increase food security as we go? Manish, you might have some thoughts on this and your parting shots as we close. I think Manish is frozen in time. Dr. Saurabh?
Yeah, thanks, Nathan. In my understanding, the thing that has been around for a while but not utilized optimally for farming is the solar power. So, why do I say this? I'll tell you. This is from my experience in hydroponics. Typically, we see, depending on the season, we can have sunlight from 8 hours to 10 hours in a day, and plants are utilizing the sunlight to grow. In hydroponics, what we do is we have experimented, and there is adequate research to support that up to 16 hours of the right kind of light to the plants helps them grow better, and 8 hours of dark period. So that is the kind of extent we can push it. But 16 hours of daylight is not something very common in the countries near the equator. It happens only probably in the countries which are much higher at the latitudes, like in Norway and all. So solar power is one thing which needs to be harnessed, and this solar power needs to be redirected to either vertical farms or even traditional farms, because I have personally seen that when we expose the plants to 16 hours of light and 8 hours of darkness, the growth is much faster. And I mean, any audience who are listening, you can just go to YouTube and just search for this topic. You will find enough number of videos which people have made to show and prove that growth is faster, taste is retained, and the nutritious power of the food is retained when they are exposed up to 16 hours of light. But since we cannot give artificial light to the plants by the conventional power methods, I think solar is the answer. Every building, every house, every commercial building, their rooftops, all of them need to be inculcated and sort of brought into the loop that everybody has to capture solar, everybody has to feed it back to the government stations, and that power needs to be utilized to produce more food in the same area of land, either by vertical or by traditional farming. Both ways it will work. But solar is the key answer that I would like to give importance to. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So solar technology, you got that, our audience. However, it is go on YouTube, learn more about it. And if you have a project or a startup, an idea that makes use of solar energy, and you need exposure of funding, come right here and we'll give you that exposure. Now, Manish, I know that you talked about giving a short presentation. Maybe in like 5 minutes, if you could just give us something along with your pattern shots as we go today.
5 minutes. Okay, I'll try to. It's
Please try.
yeah, I'll try.
Okay, you have to share your screen.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to do.
Okay. Anyway, for our audience watching of us
Can you see
from
this?
all over,
Can you see the screen?
not yet. Not we cannot view any screen.
Oh,
Not
okay.
yet.
I think I've not clicked the correct buttons. Just let me
Yes,
check.
that's a share button.
Ah, yes. It doesn't seem to be happening.
Yeah, you could just maybe read it out and go along with us so that if it will help.
Wait 1 second. I'll just give it one last shot. If it's, can you see this? The screen?
Nothing yet. Nothing yet.
Oh, okay.
And I'm sure our audience will be itching to see what you have to present to us. Even Dr. Saurabh, he has this look on his face like, okay, let's see.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Manish has done so much research over the years on this topic, so getting some
Okay,
bits of
so
knowledge from him would be great.
I think I'm just struggling on the screen share. I'll just give it a rundown.
Okay,
So,
please do.
after multiple years of research and figuring out what India needs, this is very India specific. I'll just start off first with these statistics. We looked at the entire Karnataka state as a region. 30 districts, 227 talukas, 27,900 some odd villages. 24% is irrigated land. Up to 56% is cultivated land. Another 20% is rainfall dependent cultivated land. And about, I think, close to 5%, if I'm not wrong, 8,500 square kilometers is absolutely non-cultivated arid land. And more or less the statistics are applicable nationwide. Obviously varies state to state. We have the much more fertile states of Punjab, Haryana, UP, Bihar. We also have some lesser fertile states of Orissa and so. Maharashtra, I don't know where it will fit. Similar to Karnataka, I feel. But anyway, so moving on, we allocated the first 3-4 programs on water. The first program was building micro and mini canals to improve the area which is under irrigation. Program 2 was to build self-sufficiency for water by watershed management across villages, especially those which are very, very far from the river basins. and disconnected by-canals. 3 was to give clean drinking water supplied by off-grid solar and wind-powered 5-stage filters. This would have, so clean drinking water is also a problem, even though it's not related to farming, but I think it's related to general health within the rural ecosystem. Program 4 was wherever we have irrigation, there is a lot of wastage. So conservation of water using micro irrigation systems. Program 5 was where we have tech play. So the first tech play is to build a Uber model for farm machinery on hire. It's already been experimented upon in some areas in the north. We wanted to bring it to a much larger scale. A lot of small farmers struggle with their bullock carts and self-plowing and so on and so forth because they can't afford to buy mechanized systems. So here we give them on hire Uber model. Program 6 was farm logistics, which is primarily your trucking systems for bringing in seeds and so on and so forth, and also taking away produce to the sale markets. And that's also Uber model available on hire. Program 7 was preservation of food using IoT AI-enabled cold storages. All of these cold storages then are also off-grid, solar wind powered. Program 8 was small farmers' education on newer innovations, high-yield crops, options like hydroponics, organic farming, animal husbandry, aquaculture, floriculture, vineyards, fruit orchards, and so on and so forth. Of all the options available for their piece of land, what all they could do, which would, have shorter life cycles, lesser dependency on various, your resources like water, fertilizers, and pesticides, and yet have higher yield. So program 9 was, which is, as we were discussing, there is a lot of high stress being caused among small farmers because of huge loans. So we were opening 200 odd stores across the state to give them all types of seeds, fertilizers, and pesticides, absolutely zero interest, which they pay back post-harvest. The money they pay back post-harvest. And this was a store where there was no actual cash exchanged. We will just give them, and that is the amount will be recorded, obviously at subsidized rates. Program 10 was if we could do something about the 8,500 kilometers of arid land in Karnataka. We were doing a joint venture with the Israeli government, and they were bringing in technologies to do some cultivation, most probably using various techniques of refertilizing the land, using drip irrigation, and doing some hydroponics, doing some aquaculture, and so many other things. We have 8,500 square kilometers of land just in Karnataka, which is written off as arid. A lot of technology was being implemented is to be implemented across these 10 programs. All the 10 programs put together cost is $13 billion, 13 billion, out of which we have committed 3 billion. We are in talks with very large organizations for the balance 10 billion commitment, including Indian state government, various central government ministries, various other ministries within the state government, and also some cooperatives who have, the agriculture cooperatives and, the farming cooperatives who will participate. And this is our 10-year agenda till 2030. is what we want to achieve. Typically, getting the best yield from the land as possible, and then ensuring very, very low wastage across the entire supply chain. The second part of this project, which we not yet worked upon, is the pre-kitchen to post. So we have not really given too much of thought on what happens once the food has been bought by the consumer, to taking into account your kitchen waste, mandi waste, this waste, that waste. So that we have not yet worked upon. That will be phase 2 of our project. And so this is what we worked on, and this is what we want to do, and would be happy to have your views on the same. I'm so sorry, you would have had a better perspective had I been able to do the slideshow presentation, but we had a
even without the slideshow, I can tell a lot of thoughts and planning had gone into building this vision, and it is something that anyone listening to the show would see that there is definitely a plan, a long-term plan, a lot of technology thoughts, collaboration, partnerships has gone into this plan that you put forward. And honestly, I probably do look forward to seeing a much more fuller version of that presentation you have there. I mean, if you as a person can go into such detail, does it stop any government or bigger authority to go out and implement such and address the food security and food system and the general wastage? And it's commendable. I took a few things from that, and I'll probably connect with you offline. Thank you very much for your input, Manish. You're about to say something?
So I just wanted to, say that in the mail that was sent by Carol, I'll be happy to share the presentation. I'd also like to pick Saurabh's brain on this, because he seems to be the expert on hydroponics. Hydroponics plays a small role in this entire project, but we'll be happy to hear his thoughts overall on wherever we can explore some synergies, and happy to also hear from you. I'm not too sure of ground realities in Nigeria, but happy to share our research with you for Nigeria.
Certainly. Before Dr. Sarab comes in, we have similar challenges in Nigeria, where you have about 40 to 50% of food wastage from the farm to the city. And this is an ongoing concern. And there are a few startups that I'm aware of looking to address this shortfall and fill this gap. So, I mean, it would be an interesting opportunity if they are watching right now to reach out to you to make some sort of collaboration. But let's see. Dr. Saurabh, over to you as we close.
Thanks, Nathan. And thanks, Manish, for the opportunity to talk about it. Yes, hydroponics is close to my heart, and I have been trying to work on it for some time now. So the project that you have mentioned is actually really, really huge. Majority of hydroponic farming in India is not being done at a scale as large as what you have been talking about. So majority of them have been like in 500 square feet to 5,000 square feet to a maximum 1 acre of area, and that's where the products are being consumed locally in the markets. And second thing is that growth of traditional food using hydroponics is also possible, although it has been much less experimented upon, and majority of hydroponic produce right now is in the forms of greens and salads and microgreens, and not the traditional food that we eat in India. So a lot more needs to be done. What you have mentioned, I mean, we couldn't see the presentation. It's a huge project, and it would be an honor to be able to contribute even a small amount to it through my expertise.
Just for a scale perspective, the hydroponics land usage, I think, is around 1 million acres.
No, I was talking about individual farmers who are doing it.
No. So the total scope of hydroponics is about
Right.
1 million acres
Right.
in Karnataka. And then you multiply by 20 odd states.
True. Very true.
This actually indeed interesting, and I'm sure there will be more opportunities to connect offline. And to our audience, please feel free to reach out to Dr. Saurabh on LinkedIn, Manish Anand on LinkedIn. They are available, and I'm sure they'll be willing to sound out any of your ideas. But most importantly, there is an opportunity to get all the panelists together and pitch your ideas to them and get real-time feedback and probably support that you're looking for on LATOKEN VC TV here. So I really want to thank our panelists, Dr. Saurabh, Manish. I hope to host you guys sometime very soon. And thanks for your expertise, your insights, and have a great day. And to our audience, stay tuned. Another episode of VCTV will be coming up very soon. So until then, have a good day. Bye bye.
Thank you so much, Nathan. Thank you so much, Dr. Saurabh.